This is the new DJI Mini 3, not to be confused with the DJI Mini 3 Pro, which was released earlier this year. Rather, this is the non-Pro version, the next in line to the DJI Mini 2, which has been due for an upgrade for quite some time. I've been flying this drone here in New Zealand for the past few weeks, and I'm honestly really impressed with what DJI have done at such an accessible price point. But there's some important things you should note before you buy this drone, especially if you're considering the more expensive Pro model. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what this new drone brings to the table, the key differences and similarities between the Pro and non-Pro version, and which one might be the best fit for you. Honestly, the easiest way to talk about what DJI has brought to the newest Mini 3 is to talk about the Pro model, as on paper, these drones are crazy similar, but with slightly different characteristics that balance price point and imaging quality. These drones share nearly identical physical specs and are both lightweight, portable, and regulation friendly. This thing is tiny. It's truly remarkable when you think that just a few years ago, we were all carrying around these massive Phantom series drones and dedicated backpacks, and nowadays, it's a pretty mindless decision to bring your drone along on just about any adventure.
I found that the Mini series has been especially great for hiking and backpacking with its minimal footprint and regulation-friendly weight of just 249 grams.
When you place these drones next to each other, they look nearly identical, but it's here where you'll notice one of the first big differences between the Pro and non-Pro versions, which is the absence of the forward-facing vision system on the non-Pro version. The non-Pro version only has the downward-facing imaging sensors for takeoff and landing purposes. Next, let's talk about the camera, which is exactly the same on the Pro and non-Pro versions of this model, but with some distinguishing software features. Both are equipped with the same 1/1.3 inch sensor and bright f1.7 24mm equivalent lens that can output high quality 4K HDR video. And they also both rotate to shoot vertically for social media. Digging deeper into the specs, you'll see another similarity between these two drones, which is the presence of dual native ISO and HDR technology. This is really great for beginners because during daytime, you can shoot footage with high dynamic range even without the log capabilities or expert knowledge of color grading. And during the later hours of the day, you'll be able to push the ISO a bit higher to capture lowly lit environments. Here's an example of the same scene from different ISO readouts. There's certainly some noise here at 1600 and 3200, but honestly, it's quite impressive up to 800 ISO, with just some loss of detail in the shadows, but nothing unmanageable and certainly acceptable for social media. And like I said, the cameras on both the Mini 3 and Mini 3 Pro rotate to shoot in true vertical shooting for social media, which is really who this drone is geared towards and a nice addition to the lower price point of the Mini series. Image quality is likely the most important spec you're considering when trying to decide between the Mini 3 and Mini 3 Pro. So here's some side-by-side comparisons shot simultaneously.
These are shot with the exact same settings for both drones. On my end, these look nearly identical in the standard color profile. Even with the 10-bit D-Cine-like mode on the Pro, there's hardly any noticeable difference, which is a huge win for the lower price Mini 3 from an imaging standpoint.
Well, physically, these drones share nearly everything. It's really what's on the inside that counts, and the software features these drones provide are nearly where all of the differences exist. The most glaring contrast I've noted, aside from the lack of optical avoidance sensors on the Mini 3, are capabilities in the video and photo modes, the intelligent flight modes, and some disparities in image transmission distance. Let's talk about each of those quickly. While you can shoot beautiful 4K in both the Pro and non-Pro models, you cannot shoot 4K 60 frames per second in the non-Pro version of this drone. Also emitted from the Mini 3 is 120 frames per second in 1080p. That said, the Mini 3 not Pro can shoot 60 frames per second just in 2.7K, which is going to be more than enough for social media since TikTok and Instagram compress your footage to 1080p when you share it. The max bit rates are ever so slightly different too, with the Mini 3 Pro being able to capture 150 megabits per second and the Mini 3 only being able to capture 100. The most defining difference to me is the color depth. On the Mini 3 non-Pro, you can only shoot in the standard 8-bit color profile, whereas the Pro version can shoot in the flatter 10-bit D-Cine-like. And while the D-Cine-like mode isn't a true log format, 8-bit color can be quite a downgrade if you're looking to push your colors really hard in post, because if you're not careful, that could result in artifacting and color banding. But honestly, most people purchasing the Mini 3 aren't going to be putting their footage through 10 nodes in DaVinci Resolve. Rather, they're looking for quick results and simple satisfaction, which this drone definitely provides. In photo modes, you also see a slight downgrade in the non-Pro Mini 3. While the sensors might be the same, DJI has disabled the ability to capture 48 megapixel sensor shift images in the not Pro version of this drone. The newest Mini 3 can only capture 12 megapixels. And honestly, for social media, that works. All of these images are coming from the same small sensor anyways, so you're really not gaining much except for cropping ability with those sensor shift images. I would say the quality is pretty similar to what you get on the last generation iPhone. It's good, but not great. The distinction between these two drones that's the most glaring to me is the omission of active track in the newest Mini 3, meaning Spotlight, active track, and point of interest is only available in the Mini 3 Pro. This is almost certainly because the Mini 3 doesn't have obstacle avoidance sensors and just the downward facing sensors. But it's quite important to note if you've relied on these modes in the past to create compositions by yourself. And while active track has been a huge help to me when filming solo, like I did with all of my shots from my Mini 3 Pro Faroe Islands video, most of the time I like to be in complete control of my flying experience, so it's not a huge devastating loss. Both of these drones utilize the same intelligent flight batteries. DJI says you'll get 34 minutes of flight time with the standard battery and 47 minutes with the plus size battery. And while these numbers come from windless controlled conditions, I found that the battery life doesn't leave much to be desired. Plus, the charging dock that's included in the Fly More package supplies plenty of recharge via standard USB-C connection. Something else to note real quick is that I've experienced a slight disparity in image transmission between the Pro and non-Pro version, with the newest non-Pro version only being able to get 1.5 km to 2 kilometers away from the home point before losing transmission altogether. Hopefully this is just a software issue or a me problem and something DJI can iron out with software updates in the future. The new Mini 3 comes in at $559 with the standard controller or $699 with the DJI RC, while the Mini 3 Pro retails at $759 with the lower package or $909 with the RC. If you're someone who flies their drone a lot like me, I'd definitely consider getting the package with the RC controller, as it makes the flying experience so much more frictionless. So the big question is, what should you buy? And is the designation of the Pro model worth it for essentially the same physical product?
If you're a casual enthusiast purchasing a drone for the first time, or are a social media content creator, the lower price point Mini 3 is a fantastic choice. While trade-offs do exist, it's likely not worth the upgrade to the Pro model for most people.
The absence of 4K 60 frames per second in the new Mini 3 shouldn't be too much of a deal breaker, since 2.7K is definitely enough for social media. Like I said, Instagram and TikTok are going to compress your footage to 1080p anyways, so 4K, 2.7K, not a huge deal. While the lack of obstacle avoidance sensors in the Mini 3 might feel a bit like driving a car without wearing seatbelts, at the end of the day, this drone isn't aimed at acrobatic flyers, but rather casual enthusiasts who are going to be flying with lots of open space. The upgrades you would be getting with the Pro version of this drone are 4K 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second at 1080p, and most important of all in my mind would be the 10-bit Decine color mode,
which would be really important to some creators looking to really push their colors in post-production while avoiding banding and artifacting. Honestly, 10-bit color depth won't be taken advantage of by most people who aren't performing extensive color grading. Me personally, I believe the non-Pro Mini 3 is the most logical choice for 99% of casual users and a great first drone.
For Pro users that are needing commercial level content for client work, you'd definitely be better served dedicating your funds to a Mavic series drone, which is what I take along with me on all my paid shoots. But for the price point, the non-Pro Mini 3 can't be beat. This new product has narrowed the gap between DJI's lowest level drone and prosumer products like the Mavic series, while also decreasing the financial barrier of entry. It's another win from DJI, but almost squeezes out the need for the Pro model of this drone, which makes me wonder how they might further distinguish these products via additional firmware updates. The Mini 3 is available today and can be purchased via the links in the bio below. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for a cinematic video that I filmed here in beautiful New Zealand. Cheers, y'all.